point here is that when you're doing something new, a quest, purpose, vision, transformation, something above the line where you've never done it before, you're going to have many, many opportunities to be triggered. So we have to have a handle on that. And by the way, once we're above the line, you no longer have, and this is the break after the breakthrough, you no longer have the benefit of your habit patterns to paint the curves for you. So we use principles. When you're above the line, it's scary because everything is unfamiliar and the subconscious looks at the unfamiliar as a threat. But what you do is you focus using principles, and if you use principles, you do have reversion to the mean, and you do have the world conforming around you because principles are principles. That all comes into play as you're thinking about this conscious pause and an assessment and why you want to give it time, because what I would suggest is when you're working on something new, some kind of a quest above the line, a vision, 80% of the time the reaction is going to be suboptimal, a survival reaction. Not all reactions. Survival reactions will be suboptimal. And you don't want to just accept that survival reaction. You want to have enough pausing in there. But you know what? A quarter of a second is instantaneous. You don't even notice it. It feels like an eternity because you're coming off the network of neurons. But just time yourself. When I'm helping people get rid of ums, I just have them time like a half a second and realize that a half a second pause is nothing. You can even do it right now. Thinking about something and you're going to respond, but you give yourself a half second. Another exercise you can do is read. And then while you're reading out loud, hit your stopwatch and pause for a half a second. You'll realize that a half a second is instantaneous. And then you start building in pauses. And this is how you get one of the supporting things of getting rid of ums, because you're going to put pauses in there, but you also have to swish out the So you don't say you get more comfortable with pauses and then you put pauses in. Instantaneous. And then you start building in pauses, and this is how you get one of the supporting things of getting rid of because you're going to put pauses in there, but you also have to swish out the So you don't say you get more comfortable with pauses, and then you put pauses in. So anyway, that is the rundown, and I wanted to do that in the context of emotional intelligence so that you can see that it's aligned. This is examples. Now, each one of those steps, I have a 7-step model. And in that 7-step model, each step has multiple levers. I mean, some of them have dozens of levers that can be used. And so when I'm working with somebody, we're looking at what's needed and what's the lever we're going to use. When I say lever, meaning to get away from resistance factor and into empowerment catalyst. So it's always about moving towards empowerment catalyst and moving away from resistance factors. These two columns, in the moment, you have to be able to interrupt it. So micro priming has a lot to do with shifting attention. Sometimes, literally, I just turn my head. If I feel like I don't like what's coming, I just turn my head and look at something else quickly. And when you do it within the first quarter of a second to a half a second, it has a big impact. If you don't do that, the neurons that fire together wire together, and the ones that are wired together fire together. So it just starts cycling, and you want to catch that. Another thing you can do, breathing always comes into play. When I was doing the cognitive bias research, it seemed like, this is one of the things that prompted me to take a different path, is virtually every solution to move back to an empowerment catalyst was like box breathing, taking a deep breath.